Hello everyone, it's Ryan Liberty. In this video I'm going to discuss 5 myths about narcissistic personality disorder. I wonder what they could be. Okay everybody, welcome. I'm going to discuss what are 5 myths about narcissistic personality disorder. Like all personality disorders, there's a lot of misunderstandings about what's going on with somebody that has these disorders and what their experience is and why they do things. So I think it's important to kind of clear the air a little bit about what's going on. So let's get right into that and find out what these 5 myths are. So myth number 1 is that somebody with narcissistic personality disorder lacks empathy. That is not true. Actually, recent studies have shown that they have cognitive empathy, which means that they can logically understand why you react the way that you do. So they understand how their actions will affect you, but they don't necessarily have as much of that emotional empathy. It's not lacking, it's not gone, it's impaired. So they may have a tough time understanding the way you feel and actually getting the experience of that emotion that you have when you react to something that they do. But they can logically, cognitively understand that what they're doing is going to cause you to react that way. It's an important distinction, but we have to be aware that there's no lack of empathy going on here. It's not like it's completely gone. It's still there, and there are certain parts of it that are still functioning, so that's important to be aware of. The second myth about narcissistic personality disorder is that they are confident or loud. We typically think of somebody like the male bodybuilder or the sexy vixen woman or like the overbearing boss. Those people, sure, they can be narcissists. They can have narcissistic personality disorder, but there's also a lot of people with narcissistic personality disorder who are shy, who are modest, very likable, and that part of the reason for that is that these arrogant thoughts and these grandiose feelings about themselves may be hidden. They may keep that to themselves. They may be aware that gives them away to other people, or that in some way rubs people wrong, and they may try to keep that inside and manage it on their own. So there's a good percentage of narcissists who are much more modest and calm, and they meek, maybe even. They don't present in that overly loud, big way. Another thing to note here is that many people who have narcissistic personality disorder, they suffer periods of feeling shame about themselves and having low self-esteem. One of the core problems in narcissistic personality disorder is that self-esteem regulation goes up and down, fluctuating with how other people react to them. So they will have periods of low self-esteem and they will feel not so great about themselves, and during those periods they may be less likely to show those outward large presentations that we're used to seeing as a stereotype of narcissistic personality disorder. Myth number 3 about narcissistic personality disorder is that they intentionally hurt people. Now, don't get me wrong, there are certainly going to be people who have narcissistic personality disorder who intentionally hurt people. But there's also many who are just reacting to their personality disorder. So one of the theories out there about narcissistic personality disorder is that there is a false self that is created, and that false self is the way that the person with the personality disorder interacts with the world. Now, if the person with narcissistic personality disorder is not even aware that this false self exists, then the way that they interact with you, it's got really nothing to do with you. It's just the way that they know how to operate in the world, as is the case with many personality disorders. They're just doing what they know. They're not necessarily thinking about the way it impacts you. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not impacting you. It doesn't mean that it's not harming you. It's just that they, for better or worse, that's just what they know. So not every person with narcissistic personality disorder is intending to harm you. In fact, from their point of view, they may feel very victimized, and they may feel that they're trying to defend themselves against you or a harsh outer world. So just something to keep in mind. It doesn't negate the fact that if you've had any kind of abusive relation with this person who has narcissistic personality disorder in your life, that it wasn't abusive or that it wasn't bad. I just want to make it clear for people who do have narcissistic personality disorder, and for those who love them and know them, that they may not necessarily be intending to hurt you. It may just be the way that they move throughout the world because of their personality disorder. So the fourth myth about narcissistic personality disorder is that it cannot be treated, and that is untrue. There are many different treatment modalities designed to work with narcissistic personality disorder. One of the more recent that shows a little bit of promise is transference-focused psychotherapy. There's also schema therapy, there's mentalization-based therapy, and depending on if you're just trying to work with a very specific problem, there's cognitive behavioral therapy. So there are always ways to work with a personality disordered person, and these are many of the ways that they can be treated. So there are options out there. It's not a doom and gloom sentence if you find out that you or someone that you know has narcissistic personality disorder. And this brings me to the fifth myth about narcissistic personality disorder, and that is that they don't want help. This is a tricky one because I know a lot of people listening to this are looking for that one shred of hope that somebody that they love with narcissistic personality disorder can be helped and they can be treated. Now, there's many people who have narcissistic personality disorder who are not going to want treatment. They're not going to care. They're not motivated to change. And that's not exclusive to narcissistic personality disorder. That could be for a large variety of problems. Some you may be experiencing yourself. But when we're talking about narcissistic personality disorder, there are people, yes, who want help. It's a very difficult problem to change, and that's why we don't necessarily see as many people who at least outwardly look like they want help. Part of the problem with narcissistic personality disorder is that this false self steps in, and when you interact with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, what you're really interacting with is their false self, this defensive stance against being anything less than the highest and the best, that high grandiose self. So even though they may want to change, even though they have a lot of those moments of low self-esteem and see it as a problem, that false self steps in and prevents them from being able to get the help that they need. They also hear a lot of messages about how they can't change, a lot of these myths that we talked about here, which makes it difficult for them. Now, one of the biggest issues with narcissistic personality disorder is that there's no motivation to change. You know, they already see themselves as great and the best and wonderful, so why would they ever want to change that? And let's be clear, there are many, many, many people who have this disorder who are not going to be motivated to change. And something else to bring up is that when they do go to a therapist, or if you are a loved one of them and you get them to come in to see a therapist, very often what's going to happen is that false self is going to step in and interact with the therapist. And the false self knows to play the game. They know to act like they're changing and to look like things are better, to say I'm sorry, to pretend. It's all just a pretend. It's all a defense mechanism. And as long as it's the false self that's interacting with the therapist, then nothing's going to change because the core issue is the false self. So this is why it's very difficult to find a narcissist who really does change. It's not impossible, though. I want to make that very clear here on this video. If you are somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder, or if you know somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder, you absolutely can change. And yes, there are many of you who do want help. So there is help out there. I've mentioned many of the therapies. These myths, I'm hoping, are going to help to clear up a little bit some confusion out there and maybe give you a little bit more hope. if you're somebody who is in a relationship with somebody, and I'm saying this because I know a lot of people are going to come to this video and they're going to say, well, you said that he could change or she could change, and now I'm just going to wait for them to change. If you're in a situation where you're being manipulated or if something's not good in your relationship with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, it's not, you can make your own decisions. I'm not going to tell you what to do. However, it's never good to be in a situation which is physically or mentally abusive. So if you find that you're in this constant struggle, if you find like you're having problems, then you should step away and realize that you're probably interacting with the false self. You're not even getting to the core of the person with narcissistic personality disorder. And probably what's best for the both of you is to step away from that relationship, because it's harming you. And as long as you continue to interact with the false self, you're helping to keep the false self going. And that's not good for the person with narcissistic personality disorder either. And I hope if you're watching and you have narcissistic personality disorder yourself, you can see that anytime you're using that false self, you're not healing from the personality disorder. So this has been 5 myths about narcissistic personality disorder. I hope that it's helped to give you a little bit more of a human perspective on this thing. I know it's something that a lot of people out there are struggling with, so I appreciate you getting to know about it. If you have any myths that you've experienced that you'd like to share below, please leave them. I'd love to hear any of the input that you have to say about what I've discussed here, so leave that below, and I thank you for joining me here in this video. Hey, it's Ryan Liberty. If you like that video, please give it a thumbs up, share with a friend, and leave any questions or comments down below, because that would really help me out. If you're somebody who's gone through a traumatic event and you're feeling cut off from the people around you, I have a free course that will help with that, so please click to get it. And if you'd like to see the rest of my videos, please click subscribe. As always, I want to remind you that your life matters. Nobody can question your worth. However it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you're going through, it's okay, and you are loved. Thanks again for watching.